Quick. Okay, thank you. Please keep your videos off. They would become part of the recording if you keep those on. And so as we go through the presentation today, I'd like to ask you all to, if questions come up for you, please go ahead and type those into the chat box. And when we get to the end of the presentation today, I'll read those questions out for our presenters to have them answer those for you. So again, today's webinar, as with all our webinars, will be recorded and posted on the NRC FAHE website. Usually before we get started, I talk about our next scheduled webinar, but this is our last webinar of the year today. And so we'll start back up in January with some new webinars that will be scheduled soon. So we'll keep you posted on those. If any of you aren't on our listserv, please feel free to go to www.nrc-fahe.org and sign up for our listserv, and then you'll hear about future webinars as well as other things that, that the group is doing. So just to give you an idea about today's process, our presenters will present for maybe 35-40 minutes on their on the program or on what they're going to talk about today, and then we'll have some time saved at the end for some Q&A. Okay, so I'm very happy today to introduce to you, we have a handful of presenters that will be part of the presentation today. So our presenters will be Dr. Rachel Kirk. She's the Anchor Program Manager at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. We also have Tyrese Tate, who is a student and participant in the Anchor program. And we also have David Halpern, who is in the Office of General Counsel for the Texas A&M System. So they will be presenting today, or their presentation today is called Supervised Independent Living Finds a New Home, the Texas A&M University System. So I am going to hand it over to all of you.
Thank you, Amy. And happy not Friday the 13th to y'all. I won't speak for all of us except to say we are very pleased and excited to be a part of your series and hope to be partners with the collaborative. The work you're doing is important, and we're very proud to tell you a little bit about supervised independent living at the Texas A&M University System. I asked Amy if she would indulge me to leave the camera on, and it certainly isn't so that you can see me because that doesn't do anybody any good, but this way I can at least fly the flag for the number 5 Texas A&M Aggies, their football team. I'm speaking to you from their former arch enemy town. I am a Longhorn, and I'm officed in Austin, Texas. But I work in the Office of General Counsel and have been fortunate to be involved in something that is called the Chancellor's Foster Student Initiative. Amy, if you would move to the next slide, please. I thought it'd be helpful for those who may not be acquainted just to see what our system includes. And this, of course, is a map of the state of Texas. And these are all of our statutorily, legally independent universities that are part of the A&M University System. And I am an employee of the system. Dr. Kirk is an employee of the university. You can see down along the coast, Corpus Christi, and that she is an employee where Tyrese is a student. As you can see, our campuses cover much of the state of Texas. It's a big state, so West Texas is not part of our system, at least not now. Next, please. Just some basics. We are a land grant university, university system. You saw, if you counted, 11 independent universities. We also have a handful of state agencies, including the Texas Forest Service. We are now the agency that handles emergency management. But more to our point of today's discussion is the size of our student body, a little over 150,000 students and employees, somewhere between 25 and 30,000, and that's the size of our annual budget. Next slide. So to get to how supervised independent living, we call it SIL, found a home, it's a little bit of my story. And very briefly, before I came to the A&M system a little over 7 years ago, I practiced law with the Texas Attorney General's office, where a new mentoring program was introduced in its second year, a program to mentor children who have parents in prison. And anyone who is interested in that, I'd be happy to follow up with you. It's now called the Seedling Foundation, and I've been a mentor to a boy whose father is in prison. I'm on my second boy and my 7th year, a total of 15 years. And as a consequence of that work, I came to cross paths with what was about 12 years ago, the innovation of one of our state Supreme Court justices, Harriet O'Neill. And this graphic shows you the Texas Children's Commission. And this commission, more formally known as the Texas Supreme Court's Permanent Commission for Children, Youth, and Families. And it was created 12 plus years ago, to analyze the foster adoptive care legal system and its processes, understanding that it was a process and a system that had many challenges, many of which had to do with resource allocation, but to bring together in this commission approximately 30 of the key stakeholders, state leaders, who would come together and reform the laws, better educate lawyers and judges, and train lawyers as to the important work that is done. One of the busiest dockets in the state of Texas now is family law and suits affecting the parent-child relationship. So the story begins with the Children's Commission. Next slide, please. And so I'm at a commission meeting where she says to me, and she is now the executive director of the Children's Commission, and me is, yeah, it's me. How are our universities and the A&M system doing with a new law, compliance with a new mandate to provide what are called in our state foster liaisons on our campuses? And having been with the A&M system for, at that point, a little more than maybe 5 years, not quite, and very involved in at-risk youth through the Seedling Foundation, I was a little embarrassed to not be familiar with the term foster liaisons. So I set about learning what are foster liaisons. All of our campuses and all public institutions, both of K through 12 and post-secondary education by state law, must have somebody designated as a foster liaison. What I said I didn't know, I learned. And next slide, please. We found that across the spectrum, some of our campuses were more engaged, meaning they're foster liaisons. What was a liaison to do? Literally to provide wraparound support for foster youth who, in the state of Texas, and probably in your jurisdiction, it's not far from unique, by state law are entitled to waivers of their tuition and their fees to get an education, a post-secondary education, be it 2 or 4 year. And we developed a collaborative that was initially informal and then formalized a working group of our foster liaisons throughout the state. Meantime, I think it was in 2017, by serendipity, one of our campuses in East Texas, Texas A&M Commerce, was to be host to 2 statewide conferences with a focus on foster youth. It's a program of our State Department of Family and Protective Services called preparing for adult living, the PAL program. And it probably, like in your state, works to help liaison high school students who are headed toward emancipation and developing life skills and considering opportunities. And that was one of two conferences at A&M Commerce that year. The other was a statewide nonprofit organization dedicated to foster youth and higher education, getting them educations, called Education Reach for Texans. And because of the serendipity of having two statewide conferences, the chancellor of our system, the head of our system, is called the chancellor. In most states, that's the president, but in Texas, the system head is the chancellor. Thus began the traction to develop the Chancellor's Foster Student Initiative. The person you're seeing on the screen, Tim Belseth, was a speaker at one of the conferences, along with, at that time, and maybe still, his supervisor, who I believe is a part of this collaborative and who we owe a debt of gratitude for speaking today, and that's Monica Faulkner. Monica has devoted her career to studying I shouldn't speak too much about this, but she has developed a considerable amount of data and is doing research along with Tim at the time to better understand the issues and ways in which to address the issues confronting the foster youth of Texas and nationally. And when I met Tim, he pulled me aside and we developed a discussion that led to his explaining to me what's on the next slide. Please. What Tim told me in brief is he was at this point a master's thesis student, and he was someone who was brought into Texas foster adoptive care system in his teens. And what he explained to me is that in Texas, and perhaps your state, there's a great deal of focus by the regulatory agency responsible for foster youth for placement. And placement typically is statistically, it predominates in the early years of a child who's been removed, either temporarily or permanently. And Tim said that his experience was what led him to want to discuss with me supervised independent living. He did not want to be removed from his mother, who had made a life for herself that was problematic according to the state. And Tim had adapted to life with a mother he loved, but friends of his disagreed and reported Tim's mother to the regulators, and he was unwillingly removed from his mother. And what Tim said is there are many, many teenage foster youth who don't want a new mom or dad. What they want is the support necessary to go on with their lives. And he advised me of federal monies available to support youth who are emancipated. And this slide tells you exactly what this federal money that is now combined with state money will do. And it provides for youth who, on the verge of emancipation, elect not to emancipate, but rather remain in an independent supervision program of the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. And what Tim said is universities would be an optimal recipient for funds that had been going to halfway houses and work study programs, where this was a relatively new federal program at the time. And I don't think it's more than about 10 years in its development. And so we explored taking the supervised independent living concept to our university system. Next slide, please. And in working with the Department of Family and Protective Services, I'll call it DFPS, we learned that there were no SIL providers, meaning halfway houses or education work study programs in Region 11. Region 11, and I'll take a shot and see, this map is dated, but it gives you a sense of the regions in Texas that have been divided, these are the regions of DFPS. And Region 11 is a region that includes Texas A&M Corpus Christi, Texas A&M Kingsville, and across the state to Texas A&M, Texas A&M International. And it was decided that these campuses, in particular, Texas A&M Corpus Christi and Texas A&M Kingsville, were ready, willing, and able to take on the responsibilities of getting approval from the regulatory agency to provide the full wraparound services to ensure that DFPS met its ongoing legal obligations to foster youth. The partnership was memorialized in the signing ceremony on June 22nd, 2018, and you can see the signers were the leadership of the two universities, our chancellor, and the commissioner of the Department of Family and Protective Services at that time. Next slide, please. It was our hope that through a signing ceremony that we could get community support and raise public awareness, and it worked. The local media turned out, and I don't have to tell you about the public interest or the extent to which there may be great potential for more public awareness as to at-risk youth, more particularly foster youth. And so this began a process of piloting supervised independent living. This picture was taken at Dr. Kirk's campus, A&M Corpus Christi. Next slide, please. And if you will hit the button, there are going to be progressive pieces of information. This would be to the music of Star Wars, the dramatic impact we had. And as you can see, please hit it again. When we launched, and the Star Wars theme might seem a little grandiose for these numbers, to which, next slide, you might imagine this was sort of my response, and that is, what are we going to do? How are we going to make a meaningful impact that can grow? Next slide, please. And Dr. Kirk, I think it's time for you and Tyrese.
Thank you so much. Island Harbor is the name of our Supervised Independent Living program on the Corpus Christi campus. If we could have the next slide. So the differences between a SIL program on a college campus and a SIL program out within the community is students in a community SIL program would have to meet one of 5 different conditions for extended foster care. So if a student would want to remain in a community SIL program, they would either have to be working on their high school diploma or a GED, or regularly attending a university or college or vocational program, or participating in a program or activity that would reduce barriers to gaining employment, or being employed at least 80 hours a month, or being incapable of performing any of the previously mentioned due to a medical condition. And a case manager would need to be working with the youth and double checking every month to make sure that they continuously met one of those requirements. With a SIL program on a college campus, however, we know that the students have been accepted into the university, they're enrolled on the college courses, and therefore have met those eligibility requirements. So our workers working with the students don't have to continuously check each month. We also on our campus have a report system set up to automatically let us know as soon as a student drops a course. So we pay attention to if the students drop below 6 college credit hours, we get a notification immediately once they drop a course. Our Supervised Independent Living is affiliated with our student housing, and the students have access to all the available resources on our campus as part of their tuition and fees. So they have resource to the Tutoring and Learning Center, the University Disability Center, the University Health Center, the University Counseling Center, the gym, etc. Next slide, please. So for students applying for a SIL program, the students will initiate that contact through their caseworker, their DFPS caseworker, or their PAL, Preparation for Adult Living worker. The application's reviewed by a supervised independent living worker or advisor who makes sure that they're a best fit for our program. And if we need any additional information, the worker or advisor will gather that as well. We have an Island Harbor application that we have students complete so that in addition to past history of abuse, drug use, runaway behavior, etc., we also gather information from them about their study habits, what's worked for them in the past, what do they like, who are important people to them, can we contact those people in case of an emergency. Then, assuming that the student's accepted into the SIL program, we notify our campus personnel so that they are aware that we have a new Island Harbor student coming on campus so that we can start to coordinate services. Next slide, please. We currently, for fall 2020, have 10 students enrolled. We have an additional 2 students that will be joining us in the spring of 2021. We currently have no limit to the number that we can accept. The SIL funds coming from the state cover the total cost of their housing here on our campus, a meal plan. We also receive $40 a month for the student's cell phone and $50 a month for incidentals. The students are paid, or actually the university is paid a daily rate for each student on our campus. That money comes directly from the state to our bursar's office. Then our bursar pays their housing, pays their meal plan, pays the cost of the cell phone, pays the $50 for incidental, and then any additional money is put directly into the student's bank account through direct deposit. A&M Corpus Christi does not keep any money. We do not take out any money for case management services or administrative costs. All of the money goes directly to the student or for the student's housing, meal, and incidentals. The Islander housing on our campus, their rent includes cable, high-speed internet, the water, sewer service, trash service, their electricity up to a certain amount, their mail service, and laundry. And that is all included in the monthly rent, which is actually a pretty good deal for these students because they don't have to pay those independently. Next slide, please. Within our Island Harbor program, we have weekly meetings for those coming in for the first year. So those students who join our program for the first year, they must meet once a week with our program specialist. These weekly meetings are designed so that they help the students get information about the skills they're going to need to be successful students. Coming into college, making that transition is difficult for any student. It's especially difficult if you're coming in with some traumatic life experiences. And so we want to make sure that these students have the best start possible. So next slide. So our groups bring in a variety of people from the community, from our campus, and then our program specialist is actually a licensed social worker. So she is available to assist the students as they navigate that first year. So examples of our guest speakers for this weekly meeting include people coming in from the bus system. Any A&M Corpus Christi student can ride the city buses unlimited for free, utilizing their A&M Corpus Christi student ID. So we had people come in to show the students how to develop a bus schedule, how to access the system, how to ride the bus. The people from CCRTA will actually ride the bus with the students if they would like, until they're comfortable navigating that system. We had PAL workers come in and talk about their program and what their benefits are. People come in and discuss financial banking and taxes. We had the president meet with the students. She actually hosted a dessert for the students. Counseling staff come in and meet with the students. Next slide, please. So our campus is also extremely involved with this program. Our program specialist, Jessica, has worked with different departments to make sure that the departments are aware of the program, but also to make sure that our students have easier access to the programs that the departments offer. So for our counseling center, we now have an assigned counselor for Island Harbor. She offers drop-in hours specifically for our students so that they don't have to make an appointment with the counselor. They can just drop in and talk with the counselor during her drop-in hours. Our University Health Center, there is an assigned nurse to Island Harbor. CASA is our tutoring and learning center. Those students have an assigned mentor to Island Harbor that does additional outreach to them. We have a branch of our community food bank on our campus. So our students can go each week and pick up 25 items every week from the food bank. And in addition to that, we also have what we call fresh food pickups, where, well, now with COVID, students can drive up and have fresh produce, bread, items of food placed in their trunks. Well, not all of our Island Harbor students have cars. So we worked with our food bank to make sure that our program specialist could actually pick up multiple food items for all of our students so that we didn't have to worry about our students having cars. She just goes and lets them know, I'm picking up fresh food items for 8 students, and they load her up, and then she takes the food to the students. Next slide, please. We have done a lot of outreach into our local community and gotten them involved. The biggest is Foster Angels of South Texas. They have partnered with us. Supervised Independent Living is for students who are ages 18 to 21. Once they reach age 21, they actually age out of Supervised Independent Living. However, we have some students who have not yet completed their college degree. So we partnered with Foster Angels of South Texas. They are currently paying rent and covering the cost of that for those students who age out of SIL. Then we had a number of donations from churches and individual members who we can use those donations to give money to the students for groceries who have aged out of SIL. So we can now cover the cost of rent and groceries on a monthly basis for our students in Island Harbor who have actually aged out of the state funds and federal funds. Our A&M faculty and staff, of course, have donated many items, gift cards, funds, school supplies. We've received over $6,000 in PPE supplies, which has been an extreme help during this time of COVID. And we received those from Texas Alliance of Child and Family Services. Next slide, please. We always try to host a number of different events and make sure our students are well supplied for different things that happen throughout the semester. So we do every year, we have Thanksgiving pies, which the Thanksgiving pie event, which we host. We purchase all of the ingredients to make pies from scratch with the students. We do this every year. This year may be a little tricky in figuring out how to do that virtually because of COVID-19. We have a holiday party. Last year was a little over the top. Foster Angels of South Texas partnered with us, and those kids received an insane amount of gifts. We distributed hurricane kits to the students. You'll see the supplies with the backpacks there. We want to make sure that students are prepared so that they have flats of water, non-perishable foods, cell phone chargers, flashlights, batteries, etc. And of course, we distributed fresh food and the PPE supplies. The picture with all of the boxes, that is our program specialist, Jessica, her office, when all of our PPE supplies came in. It literally filled her office from top to bottom. Next slide, please. So each year we purchase an item of clothing for the students. One year we purchased windbreaker / raincoats. The next year we purchased super heavy sweatshirts. We have the student logo, Sailing to Success, the Island Harbor logo. I do want to point out the very first cohort of students, they were the ones that designed this logo. So the students came up with the logo for the program. And this is the logo that is used on their items of clothing. And we do this so that I know that they have warm clothes or a jacket or something, because many of these students are coming in with bare minimum of clothes. We also do welcome baskets for every student. So as they move in and as they start, we purchase a laundry basket and we fill it with supplies that they might not think to bring, such as plates, utensils, pots, and cleaning supplies, toilet paper. We discovered after we distributed the first welcome basket that we need to be adding a flat of water because we are moving people in South Texas, and that is a big deal. Next slide, please. So what we've learned that the students succeed academically. As we surround them with support, they are doing well. What I did was compare the students in our Island Harbor program with, we have students who have been in foster care at some point on our campus. They just didn't qualify for the SIL program because they were adopted or they were reunified with their parents before they aged out. And so for those students who had some type of involvement with foster care and indicated that on their applications and are using a foster care tuition and fee waiver, I looked at their first 4 semesters in college, the number of credit hours that they took and attempted and completed, and their GPAs, and compared them to our students in Island Harbor, their first 4 semesters. So what we know is that overall, our students are registering and staying in more college credit hours, and their GPAs are a little bit higher. Next slide, please. So here are a couple of things that we've also learned. We didn't realize this at first, but we should have. One of the first things they want to do once they leave the FPS is connect with their biological families. So we need to help them be prepared to deal with those emotions and help them work through that. They're not as ready for freedom as they believe they are. For a lot of them, this is the first time that they've had completely unstructured time. So that's a little difficult for some of them to deal with. Even when they tell you you're doing well and seem to be doing well, you still need to be checking in with them. Money worries take up the bulk of the first semester. The payments come in for the students about 30 to 45 days after the students start. Financial aid typically doesn't come in until about 30 days after the students start. So working with the students through those money issues, talking to them about utilizing the Pell Grant for that first month. That first semester is really helping them figure out finances, working with them through emotions about connecting with biological families and time management. Next slide, please. The ones who do really well in the beginning are the ones who connect with the other Island Harbor students. They realize here are people who have kind of been through the same things that we have, and they make that connection. We also learned we definitely need to make sure that the students are involved in planning and conducting the activities. Our students get invited a lot of different places for Thanksgiving. We had a group provide gift cards for Thanksgiving and sent them to a restaurant, which they considered, the students considered too white. It was too rich and too white. We thought we were doing a good thing. They wanted to go to Whataburger, which is a Texas hamburger joint, fast food place. So we absolutely needed to take their point of view into consideration. I strongly encourage to make sure you have people who understand trauma, loss, foster care. We're blessed. We have somebody who is a licensed social worker and is familiar with that. I'm a licensed therapist. I'm familiar with that, working with these students. Because of their history and background, any loss or perceived failure is really difficult for them because it's re-triggering what they've already been through. So when working with programs like this, you do want to pay attention to that and be aware of that. They do have a sense of entitlement. They all, to some degree, expect them to be there specifically for them and to provide for them because they've come up through a system that has done just that. It's not that they as a person feel that, it's just that in the system, we have taught them that. They do want our approval, our attention. They get really excited to share things with us, and they want to share with us immediately. Whether it's 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., it doesn't matter. They want us to know. Absolutely, they have unique needs. Working with the needs takes additional time, much more so than our other students, but I cannot tell you how amazing they are. And I can't tell you how much they have captured my heart. And I love to see them succeed. And I am going to turn it over to Tyrese. Tyrese was our very first Island Harbor student. And he knows this because I tell him all the time. I just can't wait to see what amazing things he will do. He also knows that there are days where I just want to hug him and days where I just want to shake him. So next slide.
My name is Tyrese, and so basically I was one of the first kids to enter the program coming out of San Antonio and the foster homes there. And honestly, it's been a blessing this whole time, like actually being here, because I would consider myself, I say the program kind of like rescued me because I'm pretty irresponsible coming from like such a hectic place. Like first being here, I was greeted by Dr. Kirk and her staff, and it made me feel like home and like structured in a way. Like they showed me where I was going to live, like all the opportunities they had here, and just like taking care of me and just putting me on track. And I'm the type of kid to go MIA because I've never had the type of support to really like people to really look after me and kind of gauge where I'm going to be and check in on me. I'm used to just moving at my own pace. And like she said and mentioned earlier, like as far as the time and like being in a scheduled life, like getting here and having so much free time, you can lose yourself. And they're more or less like hands down the best Island Harbor program is the best program that has been put in place. I believe I wouldn't be where I am today if I wasn't in this program. And that's honest, because I don't think I could balance the life of having to like really hold a job, trying to schedule all these things and not having the same support that I've had without being here with them. Like they really, I don't know, like push me forward, you know, because I don't think there's any program that's better than this that I've seen. And I have a friend who he goes to San Antonio, the Texas A&M out there, and their program is developed, but not as much as this one. And I tell him so much like it can become a great thing because ours is a great thing and what they've done for us and the opportunity. And even like, not to say like gifts are a big thing, but they give so much to us. And just like the surprises we've had, like one of the best Christmases I've ever had in my life has been here. And I'm a grown man pretty much. And even Thanksgiving and just the amount that they care. Like I said, I like to go missing, and Dr. Kirk has made it her mission to find me every single time that I go MIA. And I've struggled with health issues being here and just trying to make it pretty much. And they've helped me through so much, like getting to doctor's appointments, trying to figure out what's going on because I struggle with certain like autoimmune diseases, things they don't know about. And they made it their mission to really help us and see where we have this potential and how we can grow and how we can move forward. Probably the best, hands down, the best program that I've ever been in. And I will say that I've never really considered post-secondary education and taken it as serious as I would have until I've gotten into this program, because they've shown me like, you know, life isn't easy, but you can make it, especially having this kind of support behind you. And I never really thought that, because I have one person in my life besides them that I consider to truly be family. And that's my mentor who I met in 4th grade. And that they've treated me the most like family that I've ever seen. And so it's really helped me grow, and just the amount of work they put behind me to do better and just to be a better person. It's probably the best program I'd say in the state of Texas and country, really. I appreciate it.
Tyrese, that,
Yes.
you know, we're all individuals, but there is only one first SIL student in the world who is the first at A&M Corpus Christi, and that is you.
Yeah.
And that's very special. And your success is going to blaze a trail for others. It's fantastic. And what you've done is, you know, you've accomplished a lot with the help of Dr. Kirk and the team at A&M Corpus Christi. Very proud of you.
Even in its early stages, like it didn't seem like it was flawed in any way. Like being in the program, you know, them telling us that you're the first student. You wouldn't think that. The way I was coasted in, the way they brought me into it, it was kind of like, here's an agenda. We have everything laid out. We're going to make this right for you. Like any program, you know, in starting up a business, anything, it's going to be rough. But it was a smooth transition. The roughest part was me getting my act together and figuring out wanting to be here. Other than that, they made it as smooth as can be. Kept in contact with me, therapy services, making sure that I had all the support that I would normally get. And I've never experienced a situation like this. And honestly, it's the best situation. I encourage any kid who would want to be in the program who is eligible should take this opportunity, because it'll definitely help them. I have 7 sons, and we've like about half of us have went to college. And so far, I'm the furthest to make it along. And I think it's solely because I've had this program. A lot of them had to worry about work, finances, all these different things. And coming from a situation where you used to survive it and you're not worried about a GPA, you didn't come from a family where they're worried about if you make A's rather than where are we going to stay, what are we going to eat. This is a situation where you don't have to worry about any of that. It's kind of like, what are you going to do next in your next transition in life? What are your next steps? And I think I've been able to like have that. This has provided that opportunity for me, and I really appreciate it.
Tyrese, I think so we allow some time for members of the collaborative to ask you and Dr. Kirk and maybe me questions. Let's just go to the next slide. We've got we're almost home, Amy. So from Collie McCulkin and what you heard, this is where we are in the A&M system. There are 2 major university systems. The 2 largest, I should say. There are more than 2 major university systems: the University of Texas system and the A&M system. Since the pilot program in 2018, we now have 9 of our 11 campuses, and you can see, I won't read you the statistics, but if you saw what Dr. Kirk mentioned, more than 1/3 of all of our SIL students are on the Corpus Christi campus. And just to make clear, something I said when I first spoke to you, it wasn't just the fact that there was no SIL money being directed to Region 11. In large part, Dr. Kirk, a PhD educational psychologist, was the foster liaison, and no campus in the A&M University system had a liaison with her knowledge, her skill, her experience, and her passion. And as a consequence, what Tyrese just said is why it is the success it is. They launched with an individual, a foster liaison in Dr. Kirk, who was superbly positioned. I wish all of our campuses had a Dr. Kirk, but we're making our way. And what we've done is we've shown the other systems in Texas, public post-secondary systems, that this can be done. And the most important part of that, and then I'll turn it over back to Amy for questions, is working with the regulatory agency. There was considerable time and effort devoted to hammering out what were interagency agreements, not contracts, but interagency agreements from one state agency to another, and developing those. Now we have templates that other systems can use. And so the trail has been blazed, and we're hoping that the good work that Tyrese and Dr. Kirk and her team has invested will lead others to follow us. With that, Amy, I think the last slide just says questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, David. Thank you, Rachel. And thank you so much, Tyrese, for sharing your story. We really appreciate all of you sharing today. So I'm going to go ahead and encourage people to type in their questions into the chat box, and then we will, I'll share those with our presenters. Okay, so one question that came up is the Island Harbor program housed in student affairs or academic affairs?
So right now, Island Harbor is actually under University College, which is one of 6 colleges in our university. However, we are considering moving it under our Department of Student Success and Engagement.
You know, and that question, part of that invites looking at, I think, really within each individual campus, where are you best resourced? Where is there interest? Where can there be traction? But make no mistake, Dr. Kirk and our other campuses develop teams of all the stakeholders necessary to provide the academic, the life skills support, all the supportive measures. So it definitely took a village, and will for you.
Thank you. So I just wanted to point out that Deborah Emerson is also with us. She's the DFPS CPS director of the program, and she says she's also here to answer questions too. Thanks, Deborah. So the next question that we have is, if a student temporarily unenrolls, as we know, sometimes can be a common occurrence for older or youth with foster care experience, would they have to leave the SIL program, or what does that end up looking like?
Rachel?
It depends on why they are unenrolling. And are they unenrolling specifically for one semester or for a full year? So we have had a student who had to medically withdraw for a semester, but they were going to re-enroll for the fall. And so they didn't have to leave the SIL program because they were medically unenrolled and had already registered for the fall semester. So they remained in the SIL program throughout that spring semester, summer, and then picked up classes again in the fall. However, we did have a student who was failing classes, decided college was not for him, withdrew in the spring semester, and he did leave campus at the end of the spring semester.
And, you know, that speaks to the support that we have gotten from Deborah Emerson and the Department of Family and Protective Services. They have assured our campuses that temporary timeouts, if you will, that are not uncommon for the entire population of our student enrollment, should not disqualify and take a student who is in the program out of the program. That would be disruptive to the and detrimental. And so to that, I'm glad Deborah's on the line, because we owe her and the department a great deal of thanks for all the support.
Thank you. So the next question we have is for Tyrese. So the question is, what's one thing that you would tell other youth who are in foster care, who are interested in going to college, or who are already going to college? Any kind of words or of encouragement or knowledge or kind of wisdom that you've gathered through your experience so far?
Just be to, like, I guess not sell yourself short. Don't think you can't do it, because really, if they look at all the challenges they went through in life already and the things that's been thrown at them, college is, it really, if you figure out the system, it could be a breeze. Because if you go from struggling every day to dealing with whatever problems you were dealing with, if you come here and just have the right mindset and the right support, you'll be able to take it on no problem. And really just don't lose steam and energy, because a lot of times as a young youth, you find yourself fighting for various reasons over things that maybe minuscule or even problems you seem large. Just let most of that go and really focus on your future, because we're used to fighting so much, and for what we want, situations, or just in any given time. So just to take a step back and like prioritize and figure out where you want to be, and understand that there's short term and long term. We're here to prep for the long term.
Cool, thank you. Well, the next question is also for you, very popular today. So what are some things, Tyrese, is there anything that Island Harbor isn't currently kind of doing or providing that you or other students might find helpful?
To be real, and this might sound funny, the program is so great. The only thing we sat down and was able to talk about what we thought they can improve upon is everybody wanted an ESA animal. That is how great the program is. Like, there's really nothing else to improve upon. Like, other than that, I mean, we can get lazy as kids, but they're on top of it. Like, this program, I've never seen anything like it. And growing up, like, being in so many systems, I've been like a stiffler for like the system and like tweaking things and trying to figure out where things go wrong, because I've been wrong so many times. And here it's like, checkmate. And like, it is what it is. Like, we all the kids sat down and we had like a panel to figure out like when they can improve. And they do this frequently, honestly, just to get our feedback. And we all just sat there and pretty much was like, we want ESA animals. Like, we went through situations and other kids in like the dorms have animals and stuff like that, and we want the same opportunity. So, and I know that sounds silly, but that's the kind of progress they have here. You know, like, I can't, not just trying to like say they're like, this is the best program ever, or trying to like, boost it, but like, I'm blown for words. Like, I don't know what else to say. That's all that came to mind when that question was asked. Like, we all want ESA animals, because I own a cat myself, and then I know people with dogs and cats, and like, how can we get them certified? I mean, we struggled a lot. You have people here who has aunts and uncles who are doctors, so they write them a note. Like, we have serious issues here. Can we please get it? That's pretty much what I.
Totally understandable. So if that's the last question we have, but I wanted to see, Deborah, since you're here with us, if there's anything you'd like to add. And it's okay if you don't. Okay. Well, I think that's everything. I think that's all the questions we've had today. Oh, sorry, Deborah. Yes, sorry. Let me unmute you. Sorry about that. I forgot that that's an issue. Okay.
No, I just want to just have this opportunity to say that David and the entire Texas A&M University system have been great partners with us. Of course, we've been highlighting the Island Harbor program, but David has been instrumental in bringing up this program in many of their other college campuses, and also has shared his wisdom with other colleges, universities not in his system. And so I just wanted to say thank you for those that participated today. I really hope you will look at this program. I agree with our speaker that I believe that this is one of the greatest models available in terms of really how to work with youth who have aged out of the foster care system, who are trying to get their post-secondary education. And as we know, if the right supports are in place, their ability to achieve that goal is greatly enhanced by these type of programs. So I just want to say thank you.
Me too, Amy. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to be with y'all.
Sure. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you to all of our presenters. There's a question in the chat box about are the slides going to be available? So yes, we post, we have a YouTube channel for the recordings of the webinars, and we also post a PDF version of the slides on the NRC FAHE website. So all of that will be available very soon. There's a question that just came up. Are you all willing to consult with other schools as we get our programs going?
Absolutely.
Yes, we actually do that frequently. Jessica and I meet with schools across the state of Texas routinely via phone and WebEx to help them get started. And we email out all of our materials to anybody who wants them.
So we don't have any email shared or
Oh, it's on the last slide.
Oh, it's
It
on the last
actually, there is one, I misspoke.
Okay, cool. No, that's great. So here are some web email addresses. And if anybody's having any trouble connecting, you can reach out to me as well, and I can help facilitate that connection as well with David. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. And we will, again, if you aren't already on our listserv, please feel free to join that so you'll hear about future webinars. And thanks so much to our presenters for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you.